Okay, we're live. All right. Well, welcome everybody to the February 13th, 2023 Cultural Affairs Commission meeting. And seeing that we have a quorum here tonight, we can get the meeting going. So we'll start with approving minutes. Any changes to the minutes? Anyone want to offer a movement?
Actually, down on the bottom of the first page, the FY 2024 operating budget. Second bullet says it changed arts and community awards to arts and community grants, and it's actually the opposite direction.
Yeah, I sent a revised version.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, sorry about
Oh, is that in that one? Oh, there we go.
I
Yeah,
sent
that's
it-
the only thing I saw.
Yeah, because as soon as I read that, I was like, that's not right. And I revised it.
Okay, that's all.
On it. Who would like to?
I move to approve the minutes with the change from today.
Second. All right, all those in favor? Yay, okay, unanimous. So let us move on. So our agenda tonight was developed with the executive committee got together to come up with tonight's agenda, which is a procedure we're going to put into place moving forward so the chair doesn't have to do it all by herself. So Kimberly, Victoria, Darcy, and I and Tatiana met on January 31st to set the agenda. So I'm going to start with the first item is just following up with our discussion from last month about the Bishop Park project. And we had some discussion about proposing different ideas and how those ideas get moved forward. And I just want to take a moment to clarify, at least for the SPLOST projects. SPLOST, the SPLOST program, when it gets started, you know, Athens is unusual in that citizens can propose projects for the SPLOST program. And so, which is very somewhat unusual. And so recognizing how much citizens have invested in the program, there is a group, a user group that's assigned to each of the SPLOST projects. And a lot of times it includes the people who were part of the initiation of those projects. But anyway, it's a sort of a formalized group of people. I think it's sanctioned by the mayor and commission. And so they're kind of the group that the city works with as we develop the SPLOST projects, as they move from proposal into planning, into construction, blah, 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 blah. This user group goes all the way through the project. And they're a standing group. So that's the group that we work with when we develop our art projects. And unfortunately, a lot of times these user groups do sort of dwindle by the time we get to the art project, and there aren't very many of them left, which is, I think, an issue that maybe we need to address, but probably in future efforts. But as it stands, because now as it stands, the user group is the group that comes up with a recommendation for us, for the art groups, for the public art projects. And the user group also includes, I should add, staff. A lot of times it's leisure service staff and folks that have to take care of and maintain and program the projects. And so all of these people have a pretty strong, they have a they have standing, and we need to make sure that we're listening to them and incorporating their thoughts as we move forward. So I just wanted to sort of articulate some of that because, sometimes we would like to drive those projects a little bit more forthrightly and, kind of be the spearheads around how the public art scoping goes, but really we need to incorporate these user groups as we develop the public art project and as we vote on them, approve on them, and then the project goes to mayor and commission for the final approval, since we are only a advisory recommendation kind of body. So I just wanted to put that out because I did get some comments last month about, how does this work, blah, blah, blah. And, but I do want to point out that I think there's maybe moving forward in the future, we might look at another way of structuring a user group around our art projects. Because I think it would be nice to be able to bring in other artists, other, residents who might be more directly impacted by some of these projects that aren't necessarily part of the user group. So, but that's something for another time, and we're not going to belabor that right now. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So I was part of the 3-person group that was assigned to the project. I don't think I ever got any emails about it. So I was just wondering, like, what is that communication process like with the user group? And how can we ensure that we just like see something in writing, I guess, moving forward? Because it kind of, I think it's like, my experience in the past was sort of, hey, there's going to be a user group meeting on this date, and it was just already set probably by the staff's availability, and that's fine. But then, like, I think there were multiple meetings, and I didn't even know about them, and I never got any email about it. So that's just something I wanted to ask about for the future, to make sure that we can actually be involved, so that it doesn't come to the end of a project and then people get frustrated because they think that they're not being heard, and it's probably just that they weren't actually a part of the process like they were intended to be.
Right.
So.
Good point. I think another aspect of this whole thing is that we do have, we try to have someone from the commission involved in each of the projects. Maybe not as the official user group, but as a member that can help facilitate the conversation, come up with different ideas. And what we might do moving forward is just make sure that we have someone assigned from our commission to each of the SPLOST projects that gets notified each time that there is a meeting.
Yeah, I guess that was our understanding.
My
We were assigned.
was, we were assigned.
Oh,
And then we didn't get any.
User group.
Okay.
Which is,
I've been
it's fine,
to-
but,
I
yeah.
think, I missed the first one, I've been to the second one, that's where I met Kent actually. And the third one, I wasn't aware that there was one. So I think our assumption was that we were part of the user group in whatever capacity, that we were working with the user group to have a, kind of a feedback loop to be able to present ideas, but also to hear more ideas and to
Have some
consensus
dialogue.
and present it to the meeting here.
Because otherwise we just weren't sure, like, how can we serve the user group? How can we serve the body? It just felt kind of performative. Not, I know that sounds like a strong word, but it was just like, we didn't know how we could plug in when we didn't really get any information.
Well, we need to be better about doing that for sure, because we should be invited anytime there's a user group meeting, whoever had volunteered to be part of it should be included. So that should be kind of standard operating procedures, I think.
Carolyn, maybe you could, or Bonnie, you could do something, or somebody could, or maybe, I don't know, Kim could get a list of the projects, the SPLOST projects and their user groups, and make sure somebody from ACAC is on that
Yes.
list.
I think Tatiana already has a
Because I'd be
list
curious
of
to-
that in
Yeah.
the drive, like of the different,
And are we on the list?
it's just like a
I mean,
Word
like
document
a-
that she
I
has.
mean, like who's kind
Yeah.
of with each project, yeah.
It's just a Google Doc for sort of reference. I don't know how that's
Project
put into
tracker.
like a,
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Well,
it's
maybe
made
you
functional, but-
have that already, maybe you can.
Maybe we can take a
Send-
look at it.
Maybe you can
yes.
send it and
Sure.
make sure that the SPOS people have the same list.
So if they're the
With
ones
the
sending out
contact
a meeting
information.
invite,
Well, there is sometimes there are some disconnects, because SPOS organizes the meetings and sends out the invitations and, well, maybe we need to send a little, note to the SPOS that we've had some, with making sure that our people are, invited. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we haven't,
So as far as I know, this is Madhuri.
hey, Marty.
Hi, Marjorie.
Hi.
Oh, good. Chime in, please.
Yeah. So as far as I know, like ACAC members have been involved in some of the who have been linked to each project have been involved in the user group meetings, and like most of them have even participated in them. Like I'm not understanding like in which projects they haven't been contacted, but like moving forward, if like Tatiana has already a list of splash projects like which have art involved in it, and like you can all link somebody else like to each project, and then we can make sure to invite them in like for every user group meeting where art like we'll be discussing about public art.
Yeah, that's great. I think it might have just been that for
An
this particular
oversight.
project, there was an oversight and it's,
Yeah.
that's all.
we had the site visit, because those were there for the site visit. Then there
think
was
I-
a follow-up meeting that no one was available for, and that was it. That was the last meeting.
Okay, I think we were
So,
told in some of the last meetings that there was like additional conversation after that, so maybe that's why, that must have
went
been a
to the-
misunderstanding.
so there was a survey made for the user group members after the most recent follow-up meeting that they could put in their feedback on their own time. So there wasn't any additional meetings beyond that.
I'm on that use group, and we haven't had many meetings because it's going through, design phase now, so there's not a lot for the user group to be doing. But so I think one point that I want to clarify is you're talking about not being involved in every user group meeting, but perhaps user group meetings when public art's being discussed. Because there's a year and a half or 2 years worth of user group meetings, and maybe 10% of those may be talking about public.
Yeah, we definitely just mean the public.
So you want to separate from the.
Yeah, we
rest.
definitely just mean the public.
It's driving crazy. But yeah, I think Tatiana's right. We did have that meeting where we discussed some potential public art ideas. And what we find with most user groups is they're interested in the location, but the actual, like where that art's going to sit on the project or nearby or adjacent to that project. But the actual project itself is something they trust you guys to handle that process with. And so working through Tatiana and back to you all, that seems to work very well. And all the user groups I've been on, I don't know if you've been part of any user groups where they actually wanted to say, oh, no, I don't like this piece of work, or we ought to do this kind of artwork. You don't find that in this group. They're more about the brick and mortar and the outcome of the actual project itself, because they know we've got a group of citizens we can fall back on for the art piece. So that's worked pretty well. Maybe the communication just needs to improve.
Yeah, so we met to put a proposal together that was about 5 pages long with examples. And we sent it to the user group, but we received no feedback. So the next time when we were meeting here was the vote to approve of the user group told us. So without that kind of a feedback back and forth, it's very difficult for us to make an informed decision.
And that's what we can work on.
Yeah, and maybe just clarity on like how often would you have to schedule an additional meeting so we would know, is the email the right way? Because I don't know, is the email the right way? Is there gonna be another meeting that would be better? I don't know, just a little better communication.
Look at you.
Next time we will try better. Okay, moving on. Commission training. So there is in the works a boards and commissions training that is being developed and will soon be brought to this group. And I think that'll be a really valuable training endeavor, just so that we can better understand our role in the city. So anyway, just know that that is in the works, and
And hopefully will be before the retreat.
yes.
Yes, so we have another follow-up meeting with the managers on the 12th.
Yeah, and it's already being piloted
The
with one of
10th,
the groups. So
Okay.
they're already trying out with one of the other commissions and kind of seeing how it goes.
Cool. All right. And then on the retreat planning, we talked about a little bit about this in the executive meeting, and just, again, kind of reiterating that it might be best to wait until after we have this commission training before we move full speed ahead with our retreat. So that's sort of on the back burner right now. Next item is our bylaws. We have a revised set of bylaws that Donna and Ezra worked on. Thank you very much. So we have copies of it here available if anybody wants a hard copy. There's a copy on the Google Drive. And I think what we'd like to do is have everybody take a look at it and review it, and so that we still have to send it to the city attorneys for their, whatever their, they have to wave their wand over it as well. So, but so I think what we want to do is have everybody here comfortable with it so that we can move it forward. Donna, do you want to add anything?
No, I think the printouts that you picked up here, don't necessarily, the Google Doc has the revisions in different color.
So you can see the original versus the revision, yeah.
Right. And then this one does have some strike throughs. But we've been going, piddling with this for a while, and I think this is pretty much all that we know how to say differently, and you can see we didn't change a lot of things. The only thing I would point out is, that is changed is we added an Article 12 on non-discrimination that was not in the original bylaws. And Article 13, the amendment, is changed a little bit, but, just states that it should be, bylaws should be reviewed annually, but it doesn't say how.
So is this not, so the one you have printed out doesn't have that?
Article 13.
I don't have so you're talking, if you were looking in the Google Doc, that's the one.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to
Yeah.
try to invite everybody to the Google Doc.
Okay.
And if I can't, I kind of will.
Weird.
There's not a lot of changes. And I'm not sure myself at this point about the dates of the officers and their duties.
Yeah, it seems like in this copy, at least it might be a typo, because it says the election would be May 10th, but it says the terms are April to March. So you can't have an election before the term
Right.
ends, right?
Right.
Okay, yeah.
So you'll make sure we just have access, and then if we need to make any comments, we can do that.
And we could do like insert comment, like that would be, that's not
You could insert comments. That's why it says at the top, draft for updating editing. If you accidentally get one that doesn't say that, don't edit it, that's the That's the real one.
Thankfully, we can look at the history and see what we need to pass.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll get that out tomorrow.
And then do we want to just have our comments in by a specific date?
What would be a good day?
Before our next meeting, a week before our next meeting. See, our next meeting is March 13th. Okay,
So that would be March the 6th.
March 6th, that sounds good. That way, when we do our next agenda setting, we'll have the bylaws already reviewed and edited by the commission. There's one other item that I went ahead and threw in there was about, we had talked about spending threshold. And we had set it at $200 where we don't have to have a vote of the whole commission for expenditures below $200. And you had asked the question, Donna, by who would be authorized to spend up to $200. I would say it was each of our commissioners, any one of our commissioners. Anyway, take a look at that.
And the things we would spend up to that amount might be on like, printing pamphlets for a tabling event, or like, maybe food for the retreat, even though I don't know if it would come in, but stuff like that, not like a road, mini mural or something.
No, and I think the way it's worded is an ongoing project, an ongoing,
Activities of the
ACAC
commission.
project. I don't know why I can't see it. Oh, yeah, here's it.
Right there.
But, that's from what budget to, just from the
Well, we're operating.
operating?
Yeah.
That should be fair. 2. What's on my 2?
Reading that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, March 6th. Get comments in on that. What else? We need a new outreach committee. We need to reassign our people to the outreach committee. And I've already gotten, Kimberly and Ezra have volunteered to be part of the committee, but they don't want to chair. I don't know why. Cheering is so much fun, people.
If I weren't president of another.
You have a lot on your plate. Well, we all, yeah, I know.
I'm so
wanna
happy to
stay
be
on
on it. Yeah, I'm so happy to be on it.
Do you want to chair it?
Did I see a little pair on
You've done it before.
Darcy is like just looking at her.
Yeah, I'm just checking my calendar.
Well, and Ezra, are you?
I can't chair.
So I can, but I'm also interested in just doing more like policy research, that just to fill some gaps in what we're doing. So if that's gonna be something that we would want to strategically focus on, I would prefer to put energy towards that. But that's more of like a aspirational perspective thing, depending on our,
Well,
like how our retreat goes and our strategy.
Why don't we in the interim until we have our retreat and figure out our priorities, maybe in that interim.
Sure, that's fine.
How's that?
That's fine.
That's how I got roped into the chair that way. That was a very effective strategy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, nobody's. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are gonna talk about using our operation funds for plaques. Yes, we talked about doing plaques for our existing public art projects. A lot of our art is out there without any recognition or acknowledgement about who did it, why they did it. It doesn't even, there isn't even any acknowledgement of our role, the city's role. So, seems like it's a really important project to, move forward, and, we've got some money in the bank ready to be spent. And, we talked, Tatiana, and, did we talk about that at executive?
A
or
little
did
bit,
we
and then
just-
you guys were gonna talk about it the next day.
Yeah, we were thinking about, just to simplify it a little bit, to start out with, is selecting a certain type of art, like the bus shelters would be.
There's a lot.
There's a lot of them, and it would be easy to standardize, and we could roll that out fairly quickly. Some of the other art pieces, for example, I can never remember the name of it, the one in the roundabout, little challenging, follow taxes, little challenging.
Right.
So,
And that one would be like, it's not exactly accessible, so it's not as much of a priority, I would say, for like a pedestrian walk.
right.
As like the bus shelter where there's tons of
Right.
people who go by every day, so.
So I think it would be pretty easy for us to, get, plaques done for all of the bus shelters and standardize it.
And how many bus shelters are there? Is it like 60? How many?
60.
Oh, I was right, okay. Wonderful.
So, we were thinking about, allocating a budget of about $20,000 for plaques.
This is from which FY?
That would be coming out of our, operation funds. This year. And that was another reason why we talked about trying to simplify this plaque business and make it pretty, what do you call it? Why is my thesaurus isn't functioning right now. Standardized, yeah.
Doing one type of sign seems more feasible in the short-ish
Yes.
time that we have left
Right.
versus, I'm thinking something like Rainbow Forest would probably be a much more like bespoke opportunity that
Exactly.
you would want a lot more
It
people
gets,
involved.
it gets really
So,
complicated,
Yeah.
because kind of everything has different needs. But we do have a sole source for our signs, so we don't have to do bids, even if it's a large amount, so that kind of speeds things
So we
up.
just need to come up with a little design and,
That's a county central.
Yes,
but we would, do we have to pay the county
you just pay for
the
the
plaque
signs to be made.
to be
Yeah.
made?
Yeah.
Okay.
You
But
probably have to
as
pay a
far-
setup fee. You know, you have to pay a setup fee, but then it would just be given in a tax.
Right. Yes, and as far as installation, is that something that the city staff would do, or is that something we'd
I don't know,
hire?
you guys are thinking, we'd have to talk about that.
We might have to discuss that, and maybe something we need to contact help.
Okay. Well, perhaps, I don't know, how does everybody feel about moving forward with bus shelter plaques and
And that would be how many? I'm sorry.
60?
60.
And would the 20,000 cover all the plaques plus installation if or we need to pad it a little bit for installation?
I think that should be.
I think it should be plenty. I don't even think we'd spend that much, but we can.
Yeah, and
But imagine it would be doing this and
are they
that for
floating?
$300 seems
Are they like we have fixed stations where it's like, is it floated into a
No,
concrete?
these would be, I think, attached to the bus
To
shelter.
like the side
And
panels.
something
Okay.
smallish,
Okay.
probably nothing, because I mean, they're pretty, the bus shelters aren't, there's not a lot of space.
So, yeah, so probably some, we'd have to buy some epoxy or something like
Yeah.
that to do it well, but.
We do
I think
epoxy and all
20,000 probably cover everything.
I have a question. So you're saying put it on the actual object, not on like the post where the information about the bus routes goes or something like that?
Well, that's on the bus shelter itself, it's like a,
Okay.
sign.
I
That's,
guess I've seen them
Yeah.
differently formatted, like where they say like pill bug or something, and then there's like a stand, like a,
oh,
maybe I'm
I'm
thinking,
not thinking a separate stand, you're talking about like a tombstone.
like a don't know how they
Post?
word it. It's like a post and it has, maybe I'm thinking of different locations or something.
It's, I think.
But you know, like the post that has, here's the route information that's not physically on like the telephone.
Some of
or
them
is-
were abnormally shaped ones, I think, are like that.
Yeah, some of them were not.
Anyway, so just
And the
something to
standard
consider.
ones, because we have a lot of the laser cut ones that are more like a standard footprint. So it would kind of depend, I guess, a little bit on the type of bus shelter.
And I'd recommend you loop in transit too, so they're
Oh.
aware that they would become,
Good idea, yeah.
but yeah, if you want to keep your costs down, you attach it, you fix it with something that's already there, as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
creating a whole pedestal or something.
No, yeah, I wasn't thinking new pedestal, but I think, I just have in mind like a bus shelter I go past and I thought it was like, okay, here's the, shelter and then there's like like a square metal post and it's like, here's the signage of the bus route information. And I can't tell you where that is and you guys would probably know better than I do, but, anyway, so I was just wondering, would it be on the object itself or on a different signage thing?
I think we try to get it on the object.
Just
itself.
wherever you think it's
Yeah.
least likely to be
Yeah,
damaged, I guess,
right.
so.
Yeah, I would caution against adding anything additional. just
Yeah,
because-
I'm not saying add anything additional for sure, yeah.
Well, if we come across something like that, we just won't put the sign on it this time around. And next time we'll figure something out. Do we need to vote on the $20,000?
Yes.
All right, well, let's have a vote. Let's get a
Well,
motion going.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we authorize the expenditure of up to $20,000 from FY 23 operating budget for purchase and installation of accrediting signage. Plaques for the 60 bus shelters that contain public art. And that this needs to be done by June 30th. Is that a motion?
Very good. I love it. Did somebody second? All right, Linda second. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous.
I asked who's working, if you're standardizing, who's gonna work on the language of what's included?
Oh.
Yeah, is that something that the volunteers?
Yeah. Who else is going to?
Well, I mean, if that's something you want
I mean,
volunteers to do,
they're
we
just
can do
gonna be kind of who did it, what, what, and the funding source, kind of like.
Date
a-
on this, date of installation, I don't know if you have
Date.
installation.
Yeah, we have kind of a template that we use for, that have like the funding project, the date of install and dedication, that sort of thing.
Well, maybe we could come up with a little standard just for us to look at before we go and order them. Yeah. We also are doing the same thing in the website where we're gonna have a gallery of all the art projects that have been installed in the past 10 years or so. And so each of those will have title artists, the same information that we would probably put on a plaque.
And there's more space there to put a little more
Right.
information than we would have space for on a small placard, especially for a bus shelter. It's not a ton of space. So,
If I could clarify, to not knowing who's going to install it, the main thing for the sake of the fiscal budget is that we have to purchase those plaques and have them in hand by the end of June.
Okay,
Then we'll have met the government's requirements for purchasing in the current fiscal year.
okay,
In installation, if we have to buy installation materials, we can also buy that. But not knowing who's going to install, like if it happens to be any leaf services staff, will be entering their busiest time of year. So it might be fall before they could actually install it.
Yeah.
But your money would have been spent and everything is staying ready.
cool. Thank you.
So I just want to clarify that
Yeah.
too, so that nobody's thinking they'll be in place.
Right,
But it'd be great. if they
good,
can.
yeah,
No, I meant expended by.
Right.
okay. All right, that's all. That's
Did you want
all.
to talk about the other outreach projects you wanted to spend on? Because I think the reason that you brought this up is because we, had to pivot away from spending 30,000 on arts and community awards as we've been planning to, now what are we
Oh,
going to do with
yes,
that?
Operation Funds,
So in
yes.
theory, we should have
Sorry, thank
10,000
you.
that are still earmarked, from those specific 30,000 that were already earmarked, we should have at least 10,000 more to,
Yes, and we can have, and that would be something that the outreach committee can grapple with.
We talked about the arena.
Forget what this
Design
are,
fees. Using operating funds for those.
Was that operating? Or was that?
Yeah.
What did you say? I didn't hear.
Oh, one of the things that I had discussed with Helen as a way to use that, that earmarked, operating funds would be, the arena, the RFQs, you know, we pay people a design fee. So with all of the 3 projects, 3 finalists each, it's gonna be $9,600. So we can use capital funds for those, and that's normally what we do, but we can use operating funds as well if we have those that we need to exhaust. That can be one way that they can be spent, and that will be before the end of the fiscal year.
It's just the roof going down. Okay.
when do you make the decision?
Ask Monday night.
Like, when would you need?
We have it's on projects to vote on that.
Where's 9,600 under here?
It's on
We don't-
I don't see it. Oh, arena RFQ.
Yes.
Well, that's one option is
It's
to
one
do
option,
it
that's all.
with our, if the outreach committee comes up with other ideas that we can spend money on before June 30th.
Yeah, I think we need to,
I think
if we have capital to spend, which we know we have,
We know we
we know
have.
we have it, I would say like, let's consider that when we get down to that point there. But operating, I don't think we should, for outreach, like we haven't even met, I don't think we should push us into a vote and we haven't even had a.
No, I don't think we want to do that. I think we want to.
Yeah.
We want to, consider it as one of the options.
Yeah.
But I think the outreach committee should have a chance to meet and discuss before that gets decided. Right? We can wait.
Or we can, I mean, we can just vote on that with considering.
Operating funds have that, you know, have
Yes.
that expiration date, and that's all. So just something to keep in mind if we have something that we know we can accomplish with those funds.
When are the RFQs going to?
Hopefully this next couple weeks. I'm waiting on, you know, I've been going back and forth with the project manager, so I'm just fine tuning those, but hopefully those will go out this month. So the design fees would be April, May. So that would be, and that would be for, you know, the design would take place April, May. So even if, you know, the processing took however many weeks it takes sometimes, it would still count for this fiscal year because it happened in this fiscal year.
Right. Well, we always have our capital funds. for
Oh,
that.
yes.
So
Yes,
in one
yes.
way or another, it'll get
Oh,
funded.
yeah,
so,
that
Yeah.
is, I'm not worried
I think we
about
can still
that. It's
vote
just a way to use those funds.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's any number of outreach projects that could be developed. And we also, just throwing that out, is that the firm that's doing our website also does collateral materials. So, and we already have a purchase order with them, so perhaps we could add to their contract, to their purchase order, additional funds to develop something like a brochure, whatever, that would be consistent with our website.
They
So
do
that's
video
an
as well?
I don't know if they do video. They do
I think they do. Is it Captivate?
Captivate, yeah.
I don't know.
I know they do print for sure.
Mhm.
They probably work with video people.
Yeah, I think they did a video for, I mean, they didn't do it, but like you
Yeah.
say, they contracted.
They
with somebody
contracted
to-
it out with somebody, yeah.
Yeah, they kind of managed it.
It would be nice to have some handouts for our tabling events and stuff like that. I think that's kind of a
And that would be consistent with the new design of the website to help tie those together and
Yeah,
help people
brand
know that,
us.
oh, if there's something new, I should go look at it and
Yeah.
can actually make you see it.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Okay, let's move on. We're moving on to a couple of reports from Leisure Services. we're gonna talk about frequency next steps. Tatiana, take it away.
Okay, well, there's been a lot of discussion about frequency. Is there anyone who's, yes?
Make sure you start sharing the screen from the computer,
Oh, let's see.
just for,
Yeah.
this will put it on the record thinger if we share the screen up there.
That's on the screen, okay, good. All right. So I think everyone kind of has a general understanding of some of the recent events with frequency, but
So you have to click back. So just click on the slide.
Oh.
Sorry, guys, technology.
So just to kind of run down some facts and history, it's a $55,000 budget funded by T-Splosh 2018 with the Clayton Street Improvements Project. It's a 14-piece installation by Eric Lashinsky, has 4 different designs, the arch, the bench, the tree, and the planter. It was installed in December of last year. And of course, the first vandalism occurrence was less than a week afterwards with one of the bench modules at College Avenue was removed. It's a nice way. And then, of course, during our championship celebration, we had our 2 large arch pieces removed. And of course, the bench piece was not recovered, but our large arch pieces are recovered, but they're not in great shape. And I have some photos I'll share at the end. So we have 3 options that we've identified as ways to kind of address these issues, and one is to replace and reinstall with modifications, 2, replace and reinstall as originally placed, or number 3, do not replace damaged or missing modules, just leave it as is. So just to talk about each of those options and some of the pros and cons. So option 1, replace and reinstall with modifications. We would modify and reinstall both arches with reinforcement, replicate and replace the bench piece and reinstall to the side of the bench as opposed to over the bench, because that was kind of a contentious issue. The pros would be it's an opportunity to reinforce the public art process and reconsider the placement. The cons, it will require funding. So option 2, replace and reinstall pieces as originally placed. So we would just modify and reinstall both arches. Oh, sorry, that wasn't supposed to be no modifications anyway. Replicate and replace the bench piece and reinstall over the center of the bench, just like it was before. So the pros would be it's an opportunity to reinforce the public art process and confirm that placement of the work is part of that. And the cons would be that it may inspire more vandalism and criticism, and it also requires funding. So option 3, do not replace any damaged or missing nodules. So there's no other details with that, just don't do anything. It's very cost effective. The cons, it sets a precedent for the tolerance of destruction of public property, undermines the government and community social contract, and creates a negative impact to ACC's public art program's integrity. So something to consider. Next steps, we're working with Eric to get, estimates. We've got some estimates for the actual physical pieces to be replaced. The one thing that we're still kind of discussing is the installation cost, whether he comes and does it, whether, we have county folks do it, or we contract it out with local folks, and they ship them down. So there's kind of a lot of variables. We're kind of, the number that we're throwing around is about $15,000 for not only to refabricate those pieces, but also to install them.
15, right?
1.5, yes.
Is there any insurance coverage?
We'll get to that in just a moment. We're looking to, obviously staff has a recommendation. We'd like to get a recommendation from you all. And the mayor and commission wants to hear both of those recommendations before they make their final decision on how they want to proceed with this. So the staff recommendation would be to go with option number 1, which is to replace and reinstall with modifications. So we would work with Eric to kind of adjust the design, maybe strengthen it a little bit, and then modify the bench placement. So that would be staff's recommendation. And I have photos of, so here's the aftermath of the first one. I think everyone's seen that. And here are some photos of our sad pieces that are in storage. So as you can see, even reinstalling these is probably not going to be doable. The powder coating is really badly scratched. I mean, they've been dragged on the ground. And they would have to be completely sandblasted to get it down to the bare metal again, which is really labor intensive. It might be easier and more cost effective just to refabricate them and recoat them. So as you can see, here's a good example. So the anchors held and they were rocked back and forth to the point where they sheared off. So it wasn't that the brackets just gave way. The metal was, rocked back and forth until it completely sheared off. So even welding them back together would be probably, they wouldn't be very strong. So they would have to be completely reinforced and reworked. So it's one of Linda's signs.
We did get it back up.
Did you get it back? No? Okay, good. Okay. So that is it. Insurance, Alex, did you want to?
Yeah, so, there will not be insurance money coming with these. There will not be. The way that this is interpreted by the insurance company is that they're 14 individual pieces, which do not aggregate to the threshold when we go from self-insurance over to coverage from the underwriter. So that's $50,000. So if it was one big contiguous art piece, like in the classic center, something like that, that qualifies, would be covered by the underwriters. But when it's the way, again, and I double checked this today just to make sure that they're individual pieces, and since they're not one piece that adds up to $50,000, it's all, yeah. So, yeah, it's convenient.
Face it all the time.
Yeah, so dollars are the same way, so.
What is the price?
So does that change the way?
For really big
The
stuff.
insurance companies make money.
That's an interesting thought, but regardless, that is checked, that is as of today, checked on that.
So it's not 50,000 of damage, it's 50,000 of the value of the art. Well,
Correct.
They're not all over the place, pieces that would be shown.
So if every piece had been damaged, then they could have used it.
So Alex, it's Diana. I find it very interesting because the check to Eric Lashinsky was one single check for that entire art installation.
Okay.
It was not like we sent him 14 separate checks.
I hear you. I hear you. Again, we checked it today through safety and risk and our underwriter. That is how they appraise it.
But we're not filing a claim for 50,000 on revenue because we can't justify it.
Even though we have the check that she's talking about.
Yeah.
It's only 15 to replace it. So,
So it doesn't make the deduction.
Gotcha.
correct.
Yeah.
It's not medium.
So Kent, I haven't heard anything more about the entire claim for that night. I know that, like landscape management had multiple trees that were ripped out of the ground and stuff. So how is safety and risk, and I've asked multiple times and I haven't heard, how is safety risk treating this? Is it treating it as an entire thing, or is each one of these things an individual claim?
Individual claims funds.
Yeah, and when it comes to the trees, our underwriter does not recognize, live trees.
That's so convenient.
Yeah, I suggest you talk to Julie, I talked to her today.
So where would the funding would come from, ICS?
Just for the art, not for the trees.
Right.
Yes, yes, just the 15, not for anything else, not for Linda's son.
And that would be capital funds or SPOS funds, or, yeah.
I do have,
I cannot hear.
This 15K would need to come from the capital funds, which we have heaps and heaps of.
a
But there
question.
a lot of
Yes.
importance of our.
Donna has a-
To reinforce this, so we don't hopefully get back into the situation again. So it can be modified here, and make recommendations for modifying to where it's more likely to stay in place. And we're not dealing with this over and over again.
And then would that estimate also include taking out the existing anchors, or would they?
Those are ours.
Oh, that's all.
That's-
Yeah. they would-
That's what I thought, yeah.
So let me ask one more dumb question, because I'm known for my dumb questions. Could that not be an operating fund thing? It's an O&M thing
I
rather than a
mean,
capital thing?
it could be, but
Since you guys have operating funds that you need to expend, right?
We don't have that much that is unaccounted for, I don't think.
yeah.
No, if we do our plaques, we're not gonna have 15,000 in our,
Okay.
And if the, yeah, we have,
and we have we also have a pretty substantial capital budget that we need to spend.
And what would be the timing of all of this if we were to decide to?
That's a good question. It would kind of depend on a few different variables. If Eric were to come down and do it himself, we'd have to work around his schedule. I haven't got a time estimate from his fabricator. I mean, it's, it would probably need to be fairly flexible, I'm guessing.
Still might have a question.
Sure, yes.
And it has to do with some information, not necessarily with this one decision or recommendation. Was relocating the art to different locations a potential answer?
Well, the location is set by the mayor and commission. That's the first thing that gets approved is, the site and the type of art. So they approved downtown for this, art, for these funds to be spent at this location. Because you have to have, the funds have to be clearly associable with the project itself.
I understand for the initial,
Right.
but, and so that's sort of my next question. In the splost art can never be moved to another location?
I mean, it's never, that would be an unprecedented situation. Because the mayor and commission approved the location and the type.
Well,
I mean,
it
they have to approve
well,
the move,
it would
Sure,
require the
yes.
mayor and commission to move it, right?
Right, exactly, exactly.
but that could be a recommendation as well as these other recommendations.
Right, but so you'd have two modules not on Clayton Street?
So you're saying relocate all of it?
No,
Oh, okay.
just the ones that,
3?
the tall one is, I don't know, that's part for a discussion, a different, my opinion on that is that in a college town, there are always gonna be goalposts.
Which is why we would reinforce them. And
They can tear down actual goalposts too.
sure, and trees and signs
Well,
and everything, that's, yeah.
You know, I think our approach might be to retain the integrity of the original intent of the art first and foremost before we start doing things a little more radical. And, you know, it's not to say that they wouldn't be vandalized again. You know, it could happen again. And if it continues to happen, then you sort of have to look at a different option. But, I think the first, you know, in my opinion, it would be to try to retain the original intent.
And then with these 3 pieces modified, the addition different insurance, like if they were to be vandalized again, would they then possibly be covered?
It wouldn't change anything about how that went down, or how they're interpreted by the underwriter. But, you know, the capital funds that you guys have seems like a good fit. I mean, maintenance is something I know this is something that was not predictable, I'll say, or maybe it was, I don't know. But, you know, it seems like it aligns with the main goal of that money, so.
It's sort of in the warranty period. I mean, as far as capital, as far as using capital, as opposed to really a maintenance, you know, it's moving into a maintenance situation. I don't know. Yes.
I was just going to add that I would strongly support the idea of having the work reinstalled in the original places. I think this is also our teaching moment to show our students residing in this town that they cannot be dealing with art in such way, whether they like it or not. But my question is about the procedure. So once there's an artwork installed, who does it belong to? Does it still belong to ACAC or does it belong to the city?
So you guys,
No, go ahead.
so ACAC, I mean, you guys are commissioned. That is, I mean, you don't have your own tax ID number or anything like that. You don't have your own insurance. It's all counties. So it's the property of Athens-Clarke County.
Yeah.
Just like the operations budget, you know, that's all still tax dollars. And
I thought, and I might be completely incorrect here, that the maintenance plan was under the city rather than ACAC.
so
Maintenance of artwork, like any kind of maintenance, like
Right.
if it says.
there's a huge question mark next to that. Now, there's a department we've actually asked about, with our budget request this year, we've asked, is there a way to fund maintenance for artwork? We've asked about that, but we're really getting to a point, I mean, think about it, we're at kind of a critical mass for public art where we've never been before. So we're having to figure that out as well. So this is kind of an interim period. How about that? Until we get some more clear answers from downtown.
Not that I'm against spending $15,000, I'm just trying to understand structurally how it works, but yes, I see.
So I have a question about the insurance. So I know we require the artist to have insurance. And so I certainly don't want the artist to be responsible for, like, their insurance be responsible for this, but why are we requiring insurance from them?
So the insurance covers up until the work is completed and installed, and then there's a title transfer process, just like anything else, where they literally like sign it over to us, and we accept the artwork, and then it becomes ours.
So had this happened during install,
Right.
it would still be them.
Exactly.
And their insurance would have had a threshold.
And that insurance is to ensure the whole process leading up until the install. So if, let's say, you know, his fabricator's studio burned down, that would cover that. You know, that would basically, it's to cover any risk for the county, any step of the way, up until the artwork is accepted officially.
I see,
And
so
then
it's risk of it not happening as
Yes.
opposed to risk of hurting it.
Correct.
Got it.
Very good.
Yes. It's just protecting the asset, even the idea of the asset.
Right, okay. Does that change the way that, I don't even know if there's like possibility, like, can we work with the insurance company? So because we don't typically have artwork that's at the $50,000 range,
I think that's part of the bigger conversation we're gonna have,
right?
because safety risk was part of that conversation as well.
Because I mean, it seems like all we have is subject to.
It's true.
We face that same question with all our assets, you know, not just in the service, but throughout the government.
Right.
With every purchase you make, you keep facing that same dilemma.
All right.
I'd also like to just share that I support the option that's reinstall and just reinforce. And I'm gonna trust that people know what they're doing. And I don't.
We have some ideas. There's some ideas. Yeah, there's a lot of discussion about that, but
Yeah, strongly reinforce.
That's option one, right?
yeah, option one.
That sounds like a motion in a second for that option one.
Yeah, I think I think the idea is for us to make a recommendation to the mayor and commission about which of these options is appropriate. So,
That's the one that staff recommended.
So, yeah, that's the staff recommendation is to, you know, to put them back just with reinforcements. We have some ideas about how to reinforce the larger pieces and, you know, mount the bench piece to the side. You know, there is still a bench, what is it, in front of
Down near
Tina's.
Hilton Garden Inn, there's one
Yeah.
down there that's over it, and then there's one, both on the north side of the street, and the other one's down by the convenience store. That was kind of tongue in cheek installed to the side of it because there was brick everywhere. And so we didn't want to try and anchor bolt into brick because that wouldn't work. And so, you know, whoever decided it was hostile hasn't walked further down the street.
I do have a question about the process of locating these particular pieces. I did have someone who asked a question about wheelchair accessibility. How was that considered in the installation, and how will that be considered with the reinstall and modification?
Diana, you wanna?
So, yeah, so the ADA is, you know, it's 5 foot kind of thing and 3 foot in other areas. So, I mean, we made sure that there was accessibility around all of this. The ones that were over the bench, so there's 32 benches installed on Clayton Street. And 2 of them, because one of them was put to the side, 2 of them were installed over the bench. So whether somebody thought that was hostile or not, you had 30 other benches they could stretch out on. So I don't understand, but I guess it was probably too of a visible spot for them. And this is not the only time that somebody has chosen to take out an intermediate bench rail on a piece of government property. So did that answer your question?
Is your question more about the placement of wheelchair accessibility with the arches and going through and around in
Yes.
relation to the crosswalks, or is it more about the bench?
Crosswalk especially, because there's a video, this particular person, I think, had shared a video of a wheelchair having difficulty maneuvering around the ones with the large arches. And they're the only person I heard say anything about this, but I just didn't know to what extent these things are considered. And so when you say that,
So
sorry?
staff looked at all of that, and in my mind, in talking with other people from TPW, there were ways for people to get around them. There certainly wasn't every access point, right? Because you had to, I don't think they might not have been able to fit under the 10-foot arch, but they could certainly fit around each side of it. And I'd be interested. Nobody shared that video with me. And if that seems to be problematic, we could always talk with TPW about changing its orientation. We mostly tried to orient it so that there were multiple paths for people to get through, and also because the sidewalk is not even, obviously because of drainage things, we wanted to make sure that the artwork could actually stand upright, you know? if we didn't, because of the way that it was manufactured or fabricated. But if you certainly want to share something with me or with Tatiana and she can share it with me, the last thing I want to do is be unfriendly to people who need access. And if there's a way that I can make it so it's more friendly, I would certainly welcome that.
And this would be an ideal opportunity to just revisit that orientation and just confirm that we're meeting all the needs for ADA purposes.
Right, because
So
there's
that could be,
a lot of things that you have to deal with. There's benches, there's fire hydrants, there's trash receptacles, there's there's the actual dust pans for getting people in and out from an ADA, the little truncated domes. So there's lots of things you have to think about. Plus, you don't want to get them too close to the edge of the roadway in case a car jumps the curb. There's just lots of things you have to think about.
And the safety stanchions that help prevent like a car from coming on, right? So you have to
Yeah.
place even on the side of those. And I noticed that some people were saying online, and lots of people were saying lots of things, but I mean, I went down and visited, and before I saw any of the dialogue, and some people, just from the pictures, it might look like, oh, this is blocking the crosswalk, but if you go to the site, you can see the relation of the stanchion, or the safety, I don't know if that's the right word, but you know what I'm talking about, on the corner, where that's clearly there because you're trying to prevent a car from coming up onto it, and nobody should be walking right there anyway, like right on the edge of the thing. And so it's basically like safety stanchions, here's our work, is almost another layer of, like another layer back. But yeah, if someone can't like make a turn correct, like comfortably, then that is something that should be looked at in these modifications, I think.
I'll see if I can find a video and send it.
that'd be great.
The one down at Harry's, somebody's already hit one of the permanent bollards, and that was not because they couldn't maneuver it. It was because they weren't paying attention.
Thank you.
Okay, so would anybody like to put forward a motion around this? Please.
I make a motion that we go with the staff decision to reinstall the artwork.
With modifications.
With
With
reinforcements and
modifications.
Yes.
And
Okay.
you want to put forth y'all's capital funds to support that.
That's a second, we should make two separate motions,
Right there.
just to.
And if you wanted to wait until I had more,
Yeah, let's
Better
wait till
numbers,
we
yeah,
have the
'cause we're
final
still-
estimate
yeah.
before we do that.
Well, I second Esther's motion.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous, thank you. So let's move on to, Alex is gonna present to us an idea about some murals. Alex, would you mind reintroducing yourself just so that everybody knows,
Sure.
since you're kind of new in the role?
Just, yeah, let me get this shared real quick. Share the WebEx real quick as well.
That's not our community.
That's not-
Not our community.
Gotta find inspiration some places, so.
Couldn't quite do that on a dime,
Mm.
could you?
Do it for 50,000.
Yeah, what do you say to get it?
All right, so my name is Alex Brown, Future Services, and today, I am stepping in for Stephanie, who's away for some well-earned time off. We're gonna be talking to you guys about two larger community centers, Lake Park and Bird. And an idea, so we're gonna be revamping the outsides of these facilities, pressure washing. We've already invested, some youth development money in the third floors. Now it's moving towards, the rest of the space, but, Team Tech Labs are in there. We're trying to do more programming, that's newer, and there's cooler things to do. So one idea when this was being presented in American Mission was to come to y'all. So they requested we come to you guys and ask about funding a couple of murals for the outside. And I think we have a pretty good idea for a way to accomplish getting that whole part of the project done, which is pressure washing and getting the outsides kind of revamped, and also asking for sort of call for murals. So this is what we're thinking. So each community center having two of the Dunham boards that you guys have already purchased, they're in storage, per location. And so it's about 100 square feet, two boards side by side. That can be in a long format. We've got a whole office for you all to see. About 6,000 per location is what we're thinking, and then probably 2,000 to cover the installation. All right, that's 2,000 for the installation at both locations, because we would need to rent a piece of equipment to actually get them up there, anchors, epoxy, a couple things like that. So just to make sure we cover all that. So $14,000 total. And we do want each to be its own call, because whether you know it or not, each of these centers is its own thing. It's in its own community, it's its own place. So making sure that we're not aggregating them together and getting one artist to do both, but getting two different artists, one per location. And trying to give a high value to the local art town, all right, in the evaluation process. Put them in Solution 19, done awards for you guys. If we're counting.
That's really,
Empty
that's
the coffers.
really helpful
Yeah.
to know, actually, so.
It's the next, it's Lake Park, right? Lake Park, this is gonna be the view from the end of the Jackson Street Park Walk. You guys can see the house right there, Lake Park. Now, there has been this tree on the corner has been cut, removed, and that is not necessarily there. So don't let that influence, this next photo. So right here is the front of our building, the laser corner on this, yes. So there's stairs that get you up to the building. If you need to use the ADA spaces, you can go this way and enter the front of the building. Now, the revamp is going to be pressure washing and paint. And the next photo is not the color palette, but it's just an idea. So don't get too excited or get too critical. So this is the idea for the front of the location.
Excited.
But we've got two-tone color palette, probably doing something to modernize this, open face block that's stacked down here, and getting the name of the facility at the high on the building, not just out of the road. So when we're looking at the face of the building, we're looking for places to attach these Dunham boards to, and two places come to the mind of staff. So, we want to keep it open. We're not asking for you guys to decide. We want to be able to kind of see what works best for attachment methods. But the two places that we've been looking at are front facing, and again, it's two of the 10 foot, 5 foot by 10, so it'd be 5 by 20. What's kind of cool about this space is it actually has some lights built in, so there could be some opportunities for lighting it, maybe even making it funky lighting, I don't know. But then we've also got this other kind of flatter space out here, thinking where it's all in the back where the elevator is. All right, so these are the two places for Lake Park that we're thinking about. This is as close to scale as I can get it.
Just to clarify, those are your two options you're thinking about, or you want art in both places?
No, search two options. Yeah. So this is just for Lake Park. I'm asking for one pair at each of the facilities. So this is just for Lake Park. All right, our other facility that we've got, the buildings are identical. Okay, they're these industrial looking, you really got to brush them up. Brutalist architecture. But they are oriented opposite in the road frontage. All right, so what is front facing at Lake Park is the door. Here at Lake Hurd, it's actually the back of the building. All right, so I'm right here on McKinley. We can see the community center off through the tennis court, the basketball court, through the playground, and everything. Now, this is our idea here. Trying to have another front-facing mural. These are still using two boards, but this is viewable from the road. And those windows are kind of, that's the reason it's a little higher than maybe you would want, but it's above those windows. The way this looks is as you pull into the parking lot, there's actually ADA parking up this little road, and as you come up the side of the building, you would see it.
So it wouldn't be in the front of the building, where the front door.
It would be facing the road frontage. It would not necessarily be the front door of the building. Now, yeah,
That makes cool.
The front door face, correct. So, yeah, and so this is if this were the front of Aaron occurred, which is, knocked up, we still do have those same two options, but they're facing. The one thing is you're not seeing this so much from the road as you're pulling in or the playground, but you are seeing it from the pool. You're seeing it from, if you walk up the community connector trail down to LED, you could see these as you walk up.
Where is Hurd?
Hurd?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's east side.
Formerly known as East Athens Community Center.
Okay.
Yeah. Aaron.
McKinley.
Yeah, McKinley Drive, right near the dance center.
Okay.
Area where is also right there. So with all that in mind, again, what we're asking you guys is, would you fund this project with 14,000 out of capital, y'all's capital to, help us? We'll put the RFPs together, we'll go and solicit those artists for those two separate projects, one per site. And, yeah, we will get them to paint them, and once the buildings are prepped and ready, they will install all the buildings.
So the artists would paint those boards in their own space.
Yes, the artist, just like with
They would
any
take
call.
off the door boards and take them somewhere to paint.
Correct.
And it goes through the whole insurance process.
Yeah, it does.
And so what's the time frame on this?
So like Ken alluded to earlier, during summer, our maintenance guys are also the ones operating all of our pools. So that's the reason why it'd be really nice if we can let the artists have their time with the boards, paint them and get them back to us. And then it'd be after summer that they would be installed. And we're trying to do all the pressure washing and painting before that's all getting contracted out, so that easier. But it would be an after summer installation. But we need the approval now in order to get the RFPs out to get the whole process rolling.
Can you go back to the?
Yeah. Which one?
No, the one with the text, high
Oh,
value
yeah.
for, yeah.
Sorry.
So how in the call will you ensure that, I guess the last 2 points,
Yeah.
tying each location to the mural and high value for local art talent? What does that mean exactly, and how is that something that can be expressed in the call and then the assessment of those responses, I guess?
Sure, and Tati's gonna have to help me a little bit, but the tying each location of mural, that should be in the call, it should be written in the, just like with the Greenway ones, it's like, it must be related to the water systems, specific words are beyond me, but making sure it's written.
Identify a theme, that
So
it's
identify.
a theme,
Okay.
have, obviously, these community centers are, have to be family friendly. So it would be a very like youth focused type, imagery,
Mhm.
I guess.
Well, I would hope that the Hurd one very specifically would tie into the rich African American heritage of that area.
Sure.
Because I know that that's important to the people who live and play there.
I would put both tied to their own.
Yeah, I know that both should.
Yeah.
Because that's, a large majority of our youth. I just wonder, to what extent that is possible.
Well, and another part of the call too is making sure this is not signage. That's another
Yeah.
thing we're trying to, we've got the names of the building on, we're gonna
Yeah.
put them on there. So this really is.
Art, not, because I know we had some issues with that with the Firefly Trail too.
Sure.
And then one of the criticisms we got because of frequency was that it was not a local artist, yada, yada, yada. So the high value for local art talent, like, what does that mean?
So because it's, it's only $6,000 per location, we can limit it to local artists.
Whereas when it's anything over 10,000, we did have to go national call, is that right? Yeah. So it's not just a choice, it's like a
It's a
Right.
lot.
code or something, yeah. Right.
Procurement.
Procurement policy?
Right,
Policy?
no.
Is it procurement policies?
Yeah.
It's like a mind. When we get the proposals, we don't know, it's like where, where that
Right.
was from, right?
And would we get the proposals and
We would do
Yeah,
a
what's the-
selection like we
Yeah.
do with anything.
It'd be just
else.
like any,
not just leisure services?
Oh, yeah, no, you'd be like a stand, like,
Just like we did with, the Firefly ones, we have, we'd invite residents, we'd invite, people from the community centers to come and be a part of that evaluation process.
And depending on the site, like East Athens Development Corporation, maybe the herd partner, and we may have another little partner, if you want something like that group as well.
And there may need to be some kind of visioning sessions or something done for each site to kind of get some information for the calls. Cause I mean, these projects don't have a user group or anything attached to them like some of our other projects.
So it's really more like the Arts and Community Awards.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little more, yeah.
Yeah.
Little more, yeah. So this is kind of what, we were thinking about with the Arts and Community Awards and a way to do that. Of course, this is capital funds. We're not trying to do this process before the end of the fiscal year. That we did discuss that. But just the way things are going with contracting and safety and risk evaluations and stuff, there's just no way to do a call and everything before the end of the fiscal year.
And it would be nice to have something go out that would be similar to our arts and community, just because we're not gonna have one this year. So it would be nice to have something that's locally focused.
And we're thinking of having.
Yeah.
One artist per bit, I mean, but,
Two separate calls.
Two separate.
but both
Yes.
boards at each building would be the same person.
Yes.
Right.
And as installed, we were thinking it is a 5x20 mural, like it is, what do they section it up into cartoon blocks or that's, that's, but they're abutted to each other.
So they could just be two, halves to the whole.
Yeah.
It wouldn't necessarily show as
Just an opinion, but I was just kind of thinking that the, herd one looks a little small.
Hey.
Yeah, on the street.
So,
I was thinking the same thing, I'm glad you said it.
I was thinking the same thing.
I thought the same thing too.
So we would, if we wanted to talk about making that bigger, which sounds like mine. The prominence on the building is really nice on this side, okay? Just because the idea is to make it more welcoming, because when you look at the back of the building, this is like you're seeing, and again, the colors look different, but it doesn't really speak to you that this is a community center if you're driving by. So I guess the question, okay, so if we're just adding another board, this call would need to be proportionally larger. So I guess that would be 9,000 for this call versus 6,000.
Still under the threshold.
So under the threshold, exactly. But that third board does make it a little bit more viewable from the road. And this is.
Does it have to, so I loved, in your inspiration one, how it had the perspective of various people and whatnot, could we just go hog wild and do it, have multiple boards, some vertical, some all over kind of.
I think baby steps on this one, just because there's so many other parts of the project. That's why we were thinking of the whole boards. But once we get to the, more down the road, where it's a building that we know we've already got the slate taken care of, maybe there could be some more 3D dynamic. I love that one. It's in Greenville, and it's one of my favorite things to see in town,
And we have lots of durable boards.
Yeah.
I just said that building in particular with the way it's.
It does have the relief, I know.
Yeah, so it kind of,
Yeah, and maybe that's enough. But right now, we can commit to this, and it is, again, this is kind of this really helps live out spaces, but it also, it helps with the local community all as well.
And then those boards are kind of unwieldy, would there be an option to, I'm just thinking of as an artist, maybe if you don't have a space that big to work in, could you cut those boards in half and work, can they?
Yeah. We as, the person giving those out could definitely cut them, but that would be, it would need to be really, we would need the artwork to fit this footprint.
Right.
But for transport reasons, if it needed to be cut down, then we've done that.
But another thing we've done, and when we've done durable boards is we paid for artist space.
To have it
the
here.
Linden House.
So when we did Mural Alley,
Yeah.
if they didn't have a space themselves, they were allowed to utilize Linden House's space, and so that would be an option as well, too.
And they didn't pay for that. It's $80.
$80 a month for one,
65.
65
just for one person of space?
per month, yeah.
So that, just like the artist writes into their overhead that they're paying for their insurance, that they need to rent a space, they can, there they go.
Would it
So
be,
these artists would also have to have the insurance and all that stuff.
Yes.
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 this is a pretty high rate per square foot for murals, which I think is great. And I know where you can't specifically set a budget in mind with, oh, here's how much insurance costs, but I feel really good about that. I mean, that's a lot per square foot, I think. So I feel really good about that price.
Because we know what the insurance tends to cost, so,
Inflation, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Take the train. Yeah. So,
Love it, that's great.
Are you all ready
Really
to?
exciting, honestly. I'm very excited about something like this. I think, especially because those buildings are so ugly. And the idea of even pressure washing them would make, and then adding this level of beauty to those neighborhoods, I think it's super exciting.
Yeah, and it's just such a smart use of resources.
Yeah,
We've been sitting on these assets for years.
Yeah.
This is an awesome thing to do.
I was kind of embarrassed that you put this picture up here, but yeah.
Like underneath that, what are those?
Well, so there's 4 windows here into the gymnasium,
Uh-huh.
and then this is a storage room that's kind of jutted out from there, and it's on both buildings.
I mean, I've seen it, but I never knew what it was.
Yeah.
Is it just a wall?
It's a building. It's a
Well, if is it a wall or is it like a big garage door or something? I don't know.
Oh, no, it's not just a hard side, these are 3 walls built onto the building. When you're in the gym, you'll see their double doors.
Yeah, and you
That's-
go through them and there it is, yeah.
All the gym equipment's in there.
It was added on.
When were these built?
Built in, 1972, there's model cities money from the federal government. They built both of them at the same time. I've been here 36 years, right, 37 years. They've never been painted since I've been here.
Oh,
So just the pressure washing, as you're stating, and painting alone, it's gonna be, because we don't want to come back to the same paint scheme.
Yeah.
But we don't want to make them stand out like a sore thumb, so we're gonna find that blend to where there's a little color and they look better, but then you pop some art against freshly painted building, it's gonna really turn around in the community. Okay.
great. Excited.
Let's vote on
Let's get a motion.
So, in terms of emotion, are we going to ask for 3 for her? That we're thinking?
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
Look at this, look better with 3.
So cool. Technology.
Well, I'll make a motion that we allocate. Oh, somebody else?
Sorry, I didn't mean to make all that.
$9,000 for the 3 boards at Hurd and $6,000 for the 2 boards at Lake Park and $2,000 each for installation, which I believe is 17,000.
2,000 total.
Oh, 2,000 total, okay. Okay, 2,000
So it's like
total
1,000
for
for it.
installation, okay.
Can I
Out of our capital funds?
Can we say 3,000 for installation?
Wait, so yeah, 17.
Yeah, with the 3rd board, that there might, maybe, you just want to say up to 3,000?
Up to 3,000 for installation from our capital fund.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor? Yes. Okay, we're all in favor. Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yay for
Great idea.
I love a PowerPoint slide. This is my,
That was a great first slide. That got us so excited. Okay, moving on. I think that's all from the staff report. And let's move to our treasurer's report.
Did you guys, I didn't see that it got sent out,
The,
the report lesson.
I didn't see.
which, oh, from me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. You mean not send it out? Did you send me something?
I thought they did.
Sorry about that.
No.
So getting these.
Well, now it's gonna change because we just added some things to
That's
it,
true.
Getting the
so.
financial statement.
Oh, I see.
So
I thought that
forward
meant
this
to
to you.
everybody.
Oh, no,
Yes,
no, no.
too.
I thought that it had to come out from you, that's why, so maybe that's
Sorry.
my error, so I can send it out to everybody.
Yeah, I can go ahead and forward it to everybody right now. Sorry.
I'm just trying to follow those.
You want me to-
All right, so what did we just say for that one? That's gonna be 15, 18?
17? Oh, wait, 18 because we have an extra 1,000
18.
added to the.
Oh, yeah, 18 total.
So 3,000 for transportation and then the.
So we still have money in operating funds, even after we use the 20,000 that we just earmarked for the bus shelters. So we have another 10, basically, because I think we had voted to increase the 25, that was original to 30. So we do need to make a decision on how to use that 10 before the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah, and our outreach committee is gonna get together and talk
And
about.
do that, and then we still are waiting to hear on the repairs for Eric's, for frequency, and if that's gonna come from operating funds, or if that's gonna come from capital.
That would
Probably
come from
capital.
Probably
Yeah,
capital.
just because, even just the timeline.
Yeah, the timeline, it won't work for us.
Oh, because it would have to be by June.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's really,
for now, we're gonna add to that. Tatiana has her report and then we'll add to it. We're gonna spend some more of that money.
but I think that's,
We
probably should have had treasurer at the end of our meeting, so we know how much
Right.
we're spending.
Do you want to, frequency?
no,
Do you
that's
want
not,
to
because
do
that's,
the projects first?
Let's do projects.
Okay, but the operating.
And then Audrey
and then we have them within.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and was there anything else?
No, that's good,
Thank
but
you.
we do need to, like, it's gonna fall into this next part with the
Yeah.
project.
Yes, that's right. We've got more to do. Let's skip over the outreach community website stuff and move into project reports.
Okay. I won't run through all of our projects just because we have, a lot. But just an update on Firefly. So we had both selections for Firefly. Well, the first part for the larger RFQ, and then the smaller budget Trailhead project. That one, that's the final selection. The RFQ is a two-part selection. So Helen was at the intersection selection meeting, and then Kimberly and Donna were at the Trailhead, so thank you for that. But normally we do 3 finalists, but we had a tie with the last place, I guess. So y'all need to approve the additional expenditure for the design fee. So it was $750 per finalist, set by the budget. So it's a $75,000 budget, so it's $750 for the design fee. So we had 3, so it's just an extra $750.
So we need a motion to vote on that.
Sorry,
We-
can
so-
you clarify, we already had earmarked?
We had
750?
originally earmarked,
Three finalists.
three finalists at $750 each
And out of which budget would this be appropriate?
out of the SPOS.
Capital,
the-
yeah, that's what I
The
thought.
SPOS capital project. SPOS funds. So we've added one more artist to prepare, a proposal. So we just have to allocate 750 more to that project. Out of that project, not more. Does that make
I
sense?
want to say, the numbers are going through my head. I'm having a really difficult time understanding how much money we have in what pile. So,
So in the capital budget, we had about
93,000.
So this,
Would you be able to check that?
oh, with the earmark statement. That's with the 18.
Would you be able to project maybe this budget?
Are you saying that that extra 750 would come from capital? or-
It's, yeah, it's
Or
paid
from the?
No, it comes out of
It
our
comes out.
capital.
Oh.
because it's a one-time
Okay.
project expense, so.
Wait, from our capital,
Our
not
capital.
our operating.
No,
Correct.
not operating. It would come out of our capital.
So we already have 3 that we already agreed to do.
Mhm.
that was 2250. So this would be an additional, so we would have, the motion would be for an additional.
Additional $750.
Okay, I move that we allocate an additional $750 for the design fee. For Firefly, is that accurate?
Yeah.
For Firefly, you would said the intersection RFQ, because we do have 2 Firefly sites for this one.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, we have the motion on the floor.
I'll second.
Second.
Okay, Victoria second. And now, any more discussion? Okay, let's vote. All those in favor, raise hands. Thank you. And it was unanimous. So we can move on.
Okay.
We've got more to spend.
Yes, oh, yes, and we get more every year. And so the next item, one of the things that was discussed with Bishop Park with the pedestrian gates, doing 2 gates instead of the 1 gate and adding an extra 15,000 that was discussed at the last meeting, but it wasn't officially voted on. So if you want to do that, you'll have to officially vote on it.
So we need another motion to spend more money.
35, is that right?
35 for one gate. And then the other pedestrian gate, adding the additional one.
Smaller scale.
Yeah.
Okay.
So where are those gates going to?
So these are the pedestrian gates to get into the park. One is at the Hawthorne Prince
Yes.
corner, and
By
then
the
there's
parking
one
lot? Yeah.
on, also, on Hawthorne, but closer to Prince Avenue. So if you were to walk down that,
Like by the, kind of like closer to the Wise, like field, like
Yes.
at that end of the property.
yes.
Yeah.
Where the sidewalk just kind of,
Yeah, there's a sidewalk gap there that falls into the sidewalk gap program.
I think we showed up on the map last week or last month where it was. I think.
Yeah.
yes.
This is, how much is 1% of this SPOS project?
35,000 is the art money from the project budget.
Okay.
So this is an additional 15 to get it up to 50,000 to do two gates.
And did we decide it would be the same artist or different artists or?
I think it's one artist, one call for 2 gates.
Okay.
That like,
Coordinating. gates.
yeah, they don't have to be matching, but I
Yeah.
guess in the same style.
I
or-
remember last month we said that because we didn't want it to be too completely disparate.
Right.
All right, motion.
I move to allocate the additional $15,000 from our capital budget, for to, for the second gate at Bishop Park as a part of that same call.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Yay, Linda. Okay, any further discussion? Let's vote.
Just a
Oh,
question.
yes?
So the user group definitely wants to have 2 gates and not.
They recommended the one gate, and then we discussed the
Okay, there's
second
this
gate.
opportunity.
Yeah, it was an opportunity that if we wanted to do this other gate, who was it, Alex, that mentioned the second gate? You know, it could be part of it. And so,
But the user group has met about this project?
I mean,
Yes.
a few months ago, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
So
we have a motion, we have a second, we've had discussion, let's vote. All those in favor? And we have a unanimous vote again. We are. All right, moving on.
So the next item is, so the arena will have 3 calls going out, probably, hopefully this month. For the arena, one is a $200,000 budget, one is a $70,000 budget, and one's a $50,000 budget. So these are all gonna be RFQs. So their design fees, we set this design fee by 1% of the art project budget. So we have 3 at 2,000, 3 at 700, and 3 at 500 each, which comes out to $9,600 total for 3 finalists for each of the 3 projects.
I'll save my discussion too.
So it'd be 9,600 total,
$9,600 total.
and there's the question of, oh, could this be operating or
It
capital?
could be,
I would be in favor of that coming out of capital, because I think it's just a little, we're getting into the end of our operating budget, and I really think that that is an opportunity that the outreach committee we can do something actionable like within the fiscal year that we have, so I don't, if we have a bigger pot of money here than ever here, I think it just makes sense to go from capital, and this seems appropriate for capital expense more so than an operating expense too.
So is that a motion?
That's my, support.
That's the setup.
and that's all fine. I mean, I only brought it up as a means to, we had that kind of 10,000 that was unaccounted for. This would be one way to go.
Tatiana, can you give that breakdown again? of the
Sure.
9,600?
So it's 3 at 2,000 each. And then 3 at 700 each, and then 3 at 500 each.
I do have a question. If I need to save it till the discussion, if we have a motion or?
No, we don't have a motion yet.
That's what I'm saying. Do I need to save mine?
No, let's have a discussion.
Does it have to be 3 each, or could, if there's, only 2 good ones?
I mean, we've
We
been
fine.
getting a huge volume of applicants for our projects. So I have no doubt that we'll have 3 solid applicants, if not more so.
But we could say up to 3.
Up to 3 is,
Depends on the- up
let's
to.
say, yeah, let's say they're all stinkers. And, I mean, well, yeah, that hasn't been a problem in a while. If anything, we get more good ones than we could ever hope to award.
And especially at this dollar level, we're gonna get
Yes,
a
we're
lot.
gonna get the,
You're gonna get worldwide.
yeah. Well, we do limit it to, artists in the US. That's the one,
Well, that's the advantage to the RFQ, is that we're looking at people who already have a track record,
Mhm.
and that's what we select. That's where we weed out the bad ones.
Can you clarify, I know you said the design fee, you do, what, 1% of the budget?
1% of the art project
Of the-
budget.
yeah,
So if
that's
it's a $200,000 art, project, then 2,000 is the one.
Is that
So 75,750.
is that the same, so it's the same structure for the RFQ fee, it's like the same? Okay.
Yeah, so.
Those are different, right, design fee and RFQ approval?
Well, yeah, that's the same thing.
Okay,
Yeah,
Okay,
so
you're
that's
just
like their
using it.
design fee for doing their
just wanna
proposal.
make sure.
So with an RFQ, we shortlist three finalists, up to three, and then pay them to do the final proposal.
Great, just want to make sure the language, it was a little confusing.
Yeah.
What's a design fee, what's a RFQ fee, so same
Yeah.
thing. Great.
One and the same, but yes, yeah.
Right, so a motion. Whose turn? Who hasn't made a motion lately?
I made one tonight.
Yeah,
All right, who hasn't?
I haven't made one today.
Oh, Victoria,
I'm like,
yay.
one, so, yeah, you got it, Kimberly, all written down already.
My question was, should it be up to 9,600? Is that what we're saying to simplify?
Yeah,
Yes.
that would be good.
Okay, so I move, I mean, you want me to whisper it? I move that we have up to 9,600 out of capital for RFQ design fees for the Classic Center
Yes,
project.
yes, yes. Yes.
I second motion.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second, and now we have discussion.
No, it's not about that. It's about, I suggest that come with the motion written first.
Yeah.
We often change things around, so, but anyway, yes, I hear you. Okay, we ready to vote? All those in favor? All right.
And the only other, project update, Tallahassee, we discussed the roundabout. That was, the type, location and type were approved by the mayor and commission at this recent meeting. So, that can go into formulating the call for art. So we have quite a few projects ahead of this one, so that would probably be a little later in the year.
Do we have somebody from here assigned from the commission?
That's not we don't have a user group for that project. That was
Okay.
just that has no, a lot of the T-Splosh projects don't have user groups. They're just, so that was something that was just discussed amongst you all. Remember, we talked about either doing a bus shelter or the roundabout, and y'all picked roundabout, and that's what we gave to the mayor and commission, and they said, yes, roundabout. So roundabout sculpture is what's gonna go on Tallahassee.
Do we want to have a little subgroup that kind of tracks along with this project?
Sure,
Just-
that'll be, the call for art will probably be like fall, maybe,
Okay,
so a little bit later,
well, okay, TBD.
TBD.
All right.
And I did have a meeting with Jeff, our poet laureate, because April is poetry month, so we're gearing up to do lots of poetry month activities. So next month I'll have an update of all of the wonderful things he's going to do for poetry month, including opening the April Mayor Commission meeting with the poem.
And does he need, is he covered on the, the budget for his outreach project?
So y'all already approved his funding, so he gets, his honorarium, and then $1,500 a year is what was earmarked for him for an event, or if he wants to do another book giveaway like last year, so, yes.
And he doesn't have a plan B that would need more funding that we could pay out?
I mean, I'm sure he would take more funding if you want to give him more funding, so. Maybe we can discuss that next meeting, maybe, if he has ideas for.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about the 10,000 out of operating, and especially, I mean, that's so in line with outreach, like that is essentially like
We
an
could do-
outreach artist residency, like that's what the poet laureate is, so that would just make sense to me if there was a need for it and he had a plan or anything like that.
The
it could
book
be something
giveaway was
they could
really
think about.
popular last year, so if y'all wanted to earmark more funds and he could order more anthologies to give out, he brought them to schools, we had them at the library, we had them here, just in baskets and things, and.
And that would be just
that.
something like that
So-
would be like a direct, sort of a direct cost rather than something we'd have to go through a whole additional
Exactly.
contracting process with. So
Correct.
something like that, or the Captivate, potentially like collateral or videos or something like that, those would be too like easy to accomplish
True.
uses of those that money within.
You have a
the
lot on your agenda.
Yeah, my notes? Yeah.
Just kidding.
Okay, all right. So, make another note.
So
About that.
that's all I have for projects for now.
All right, well then that pretty much concludes the business for the night, but Kimberly, you have something?
The website?
Oh, the website, thank you. Yeah, so you should have gotten the link to the latest version of the website, so you can take a look at that. That should have come from Tatiana. And we got together, Tatiana and I got together just to talk about coordinating. Captivate is gonna need more media to work with. So Tatiana and I coordinated on who's gonna do what as far as giving them the media, the narrative, text stuff, and they also need the visual stuff. So we're working on that to fill out all the pages. So they pretty much have the sort of templates figured out, and now they're gonna be moving more into production and putting all this stuff together.
I was gonna suggest that they make sure that they run the website through an accessibility checker for accessibility. Because I have seen some of the design looks a little bit hard to read, especially when you do like white on red. That can be very difficult to read, so there's a website that you can run it through. I'm sure, hopefully they know about it, if they don't, I can get it to them. Because, yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah, especially if something, get the program, but it's like, it reads the website for you.
Yeah,
you know.
well, not even just that, but just in terms of visually,
Yeah.
so that you can see doing light text on a light background doesn't work, so it has to be like light text on a dark background or vice versa. And it basically takes all the colors and picks them and says this particular section is not compliant because of the text to color text to background.
Yeah, gotcha.
I have a question, just, does the county have any, photographic drones?
The police department does.
But it's for media.
But if.
I mean, media production.
Right, they have like shots of the bus shelters or something like that.
They do, I mean, they can take photos and things. We've asked them to do it for us.
Usually that's more for like when they're operating in a special event already though, so, they don't necessarily farm out for production stuff, but there are a couple that we have relationships with. So SWAT specifically, hires them sometimes, we've hired them for a couple of big projects, so if you have a scope, like all the bus shelters or something like that, that's something that we at least have a couple of vendors that we could talk to about it.
But I was just curious, the county doesn't have anything like that in any department that does in-house kind of production.
Yeah, no, in fact, there's kind of a slight moratorium on flying drones, just because of liability, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, but not even kind of production, you're telling me too, though, really, not even just straight photography.
Oh,
Right.
yeah,
It's just not a department that handles this.
Yeah, I mean, PIO has, people that do photos and video, but I mean, it's very limited. They can't, if we would have to contract out to
That
get.
was gonna be my
yeah.
question is for the website, the photos and stuff, is that something we're just gonna have to contract out to get production done, or would Captivate be able to do it, or would we?
Well,
DIY it, volunteer?
We have just static photography that we can give them. We have that already. So as far as adding new media like that, I mean, we'd have to.
These videos are definitely more engaging than a static photo,
Sure.
so if you might wanna use that strategically on the site.
Well, I think, I mean, maybe that's something that we look at when we look at our outreach projects and we look at videos, that we can load the videos up on our website.
Yeah.
I'm sure that can be done, it's just a matter. And if we have to add a little bit of money to Captivate's contract to do that, we can do that. So.
You make videos sometimes.
I mean, very rudimentary. And I really don't wanna, yeah.
She says I really don't want to.
Yeah, well, no, I don't wanna set a
No.
precedent for it because that's not really my
it's
job.
not your job.
And, you know, I do a lot of the photography and the videography for all of our social media and
Yeah.
everything, and it's, you know, unfortunately, I don't have quite as much time as I wish I did to do that sort of thing. So I don't wanna set the precedent for doing all of that all the time.
And part of our, part of what we're doing too is investing, our money back into the community, so looking for vendors and that sort of thing, small businesses, that's something that we can help support. Did you have something else you
Oh,
wanted?
I was just saying I would love to see Beth at Athfest and, but that was gonna be a side conversation with outreach.
I'm glad you brought that up though, because we need to make sure we allocate funds for the 10 this year,
Yeah.
which is like $300, but.
Okay, anybody have anything they want to share? Sharing time? I was gonna say the Linen House show is coming up, March 3rd is the opening for that. That's being installed right now, the jury show. So that's gonna be exciting. And then Africa has a members show and they're gonna have an opening this Saturday. If y'all wanna go see some local art, that's a place to be.
Historic Athens has our annual Mardi Gras party coming up on the 21st with Blair Crimmins Band, and there's also gonna be an amazing drag show.
Yes.
And we are celebrating historic businesses, so there's gonna be about 10 historic businesses 50 years or older that are recognized, but we're having a list that we're kind of rolling out on of about 50 businesses that we've discovered. There's also Mardi Gras court that you can vote on, and there's all kinds of cool stuff happening. I've already got my outfit and my mask. It's the 21st, Tuesday at Terrapin.
Oh,
And
that's
there's also, in addition to the Mardi Gras itself, there's a cocktail experience with the Slaters at Nighthawks. So you can learn how to make New Orleans themed cocktails and just get drunk before.
Has he opened it?
No, this will just be special.
Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say, I didn't think it was open.
So we are very excited about that.
That's cool.
Mine is not as cool as that, but it's kind of ish cool. So I've told everybody I'm in the MBA program, and this year, or this semester, I'm in a capstone class taught by David Sutherland. And it's
Sorry. Sorry.
yeah, and he's anyway. So it's business analytics for the creative economies, and it's a group of 8 or so MSBA students who are all. I think most of them are. It's essentially like a 1-year add-on to an undergrad program. So it's a lot of students who have a strong business analytics background, but don't necessarily have a lot of exposure to what culturally we have here in Athens. So first half of the course has been kind of focused on let's tour Tweed, let's hear from someone at Michelle Wynn at Historic Athens, and other reps from sort of the creative economy here. And just so the course is specifically intended as like an outcome of it is we're going to make a presentation as a team essentially to the economic development department and basically make recommendations on here are from an analytics view, here are the things that you should be looking at, and here's how it can impact your economy. And so really treating art as like, let's look at it not from the lens of supporting art for art's sake, which I think could be, its own operational system, right? But looking at how do we make sure artists are paid fairly and things like that, and what kind of an impact does it make when you're not doing that on the job creation and like community well-being in your town. So kind of just making some recommendations for here's the things you could be looking at. So kind of cool. And I'm on the team of 2 who are going to be focusing on public art. So more from like the business standpoint of like what kinds of opportunities might our town be missing because maybe there's not the standard operating procedure of like if you're a business, this is how you make a mural. And that money could be going into the pockets of local artists, not funded through something like the ACAC, but funded through that business. And that's just a missed opportunity if we don't have something like an SOP, which is something that we volunteers could put together. So we're gonna look at that, I guess. So, kind of cool.
So will you do a presentation for us?
Yeah, we can.
I was gonna say.
I think that would be cool. When is it gonna be done? When is that gonna be done? When are you gonna be ready to present?
Yes. I may, by then. We kind of are just starting the research, so. Yeah. I think just end of the semester by May. There's no target date
Okay,
set.
all right, okay, well,
We
after,
could do it well after that. Like,
yes, it
you don't
doesn't,
have to like.
I'll still be here. I'll still be a member. My classmate won't be, but,
What?
Yeah, but we only
No
want to hear
pressure.
from you anyway.
No pressure.
Okay.
so yeah, don't be surprised if on behalf of this actual class, I reach out to you and say, hey, we want to do an informational interview. Ellen, Tatiana,
All
etc.
right, okay. We're
Then.
all right, I think our meeting is adjourned. Is it 8 o'clock yet?
You know, so-